we begin this hour with the clear message Donald Trump made during his campaign, which has continued through these last 7 months.
In 2016, I declared, I am your voice. Today I add, I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution.
And the first term I had it, but you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. It's a big difference.
Perhaps the biggest difference is that this time he comes equipped with a Justice Department that appears willing to answer his calls, whether directly or indirectly, and has been quite busy going after those who Trump would claim are his perceived enemies. The latest example being his former national security advisor, John Bolton, who had his Maryland home and Washington, D.C. office searched by FBI agents yesterday, reportedly as part of a, quote, national security investigation in search of classified records, according to what a source familiar with the matter told NBC News. Perhaps it's just a coincidence that Bolton has been a vocal Trump critic ever since leaving Trump's White House back in 2019. And Bolton is not alone. There is an ever-growing list of perceived enemies who have been targeted by Trump's Department of Justice, and it's safe to say he is likely not the last. One of those perceived enemies, Miles Taylor, joined us earlier this morning on The Weekend and spoke about his concern that his home could be next on the FBI's list.
We expect it. I mean, really, we expect it. And that's what is so surreal about this is we can all here as we're talking about this be so certain of the president's revenge campaign to know potentially who that next target might be or one of those next targets. I mean, when my wife and I woke up and saw the news, she basically said to me, it's coming.
Joining us now, MSNBC national security and intelligence analyst Christopher O'Leary. He is a former special agent and senior counterterrorism executive for the FBI. Michael Feinberg, former assistant special agent in charge with the FBI, and Susan Glasser, staff writer at The New Yorker and author of the weekly column Letter from Trump's Washington. All, thank you very much for coming to The Weekend. Christopher, let me start with you. One of the things, I don't believe I read in the intro, but one of the things the president said in talking about all of these things is that he called himself the nation's chief law enforcement officer. That's the attorney general. What do you make of the president giving himself that mantle?
Well, so you're right. Traditionally, it's the attorney general. I guess the president can designate himself to be whatever he wants at this point. But I think it's messaging to his base that he is going to do what he's doing in Washington, D.C., what he did in L.A., creating a perceived national emergency and justifying the deployment of federal troops and in L.A., National Guard and U.S. Marines, and here in Washington, D.C., where as I drove in this morning, I did not see burning tires or, it wasn't gangs of New York or anything like that. So, I mean, it's this false narrative that's been going on for a decade now as he consolidates power and starts using the tools of national security now with the FBI to go against his political enemies.
I said it before and I say it again, I love me a Susan Glasser article. So, Susan, you wrote a new one, the retribution phase of Trump's presidency has begun. I'm going to read you to you. We don't know yet where this will all end up. It's far from certain that these investigations will lead to prosecutions, let alone a prison wing full of Trumpian enemies of the people. But we can already say for sure that he wasn't just bluffing with his campaign season threats. How is it possible that so many years into this Trump era, there is not a more precise vocabulary for describing how it is that we are constantly being surprised when Trump and his advisors do exactly what we have expected them to do? He has said for a very long time that he was going to go after his perceived enemies. You know, Kash Patel has an enemies list in the book. The administration says they don't have one in the administration, but it's all out there. And I'm curious, especially when you look at John Bolton, for example, and them going into his homes. Can you separate everything they have said about retribution and going after their perceived enemies from the action that they took?
Yeah, I think, thank you, by the way, love being here with you on Saturday mornings. And, you can read my column every week. That's great. The problem is there's too much material for it. And I think that is the collective problem that we're dealing with right now, right? What is the language to tell people, yeah, that thing we've been warning you about is happening, and yet it's still shocking, surprising, and upsetting when it actually happens. There must be some long German word for that, but I haven't found yet. And I feel like, and yet it's very important, I believe, to be able to maintain a sense that this is, shattering norms, rules, expectations, and possibly laws as well. And so how do we maintain that balance? We're only, barely 6 months or so into this. Imagine where we're going to be in a few years, because I think that point is very important that was already mentioned, which is, he didn't get all this power. He didn't go to all this effort to consolidate this power in himself, in the Justice Department and the FBI, in order not to then use it. So this was always, I think, an inevitable next phase. But it's also very much connected with, even if he doesn't prosecute these people, even if they don't end up in jail, the chilling effect of it, I think, is very real. I have already experienced, as I'm sure you have, sources who were willing to speak out previously about Donald Trump, who worked for him, who are afraid to do so now. The chilling effect in Washington is one of the main consequences of actions like this, and it's much broader than what happens to John Bolton. It sends a message, I think, to a lot of other people who are very powerful witnesses, in effect, against Trump. And, let's be real. It's Saturday morning. It's like Richard Nixon's fever dream, this administration, doing all the things that previous presidents might have dreamed of doing, but didn't do because they felt constraints, either institutional or political or personal. And those are constraints that Trump does not feel.
Yeah, or moral, a sense of shame. Michael, speaking of shattering norms, as John Bolton's home and office were being raided by the FBI, Kash Patel, the FBI director, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, and Dan Bongino, who I guess is now back at work at the FBI, all tweeted things. No one is above the law. FBI agents on mission. America's safety isn't negotiable. Justice will be pursued always. Public corruption will not be tolerated. Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the kinds of officials, one, who never comment about any kind of investigation or action undertaken by their agencies, but also, I mean, in a normal world, they shouldn't be talking about these things for fear of tainting whatever investigation is happening.
Well, it's not just a question of an intangible fear. It's a question of official Department of Justice policy. Right. As a general matter, as outlined in the Justice Manual promulgated by DOJ, the organization and its subsidiary organizations like the FBI are not supposed to comment on ongoing investigations until there is a formal charging document. What we are seeing is a real-time creation of a crisis of legitimacy for the FBI, created entirely by Kash Patel's need to put himself in front of everything, that is going to take decades to ameliorate once this era passes.
Christopher, I want to play some sound from Trump claiming to know nothing about the FBI raid on Bolton's home really quickly.
No, I don't know about it. I saw it on television this morning. I'm not a fan of John Bolton. He's a real sort of a lowlife. He's not a smart guy, but he could be a very unpatriotic guy. I mean, we're going to find out. I know nothing about it.
Do you expect the DOJ to brief you on this?
Yeah, they'll brief me, probably today sometime.
And the Foreign Minister...
I tell Pam and I tell the group, I don't want to know, but just you have to do what you have to do. I don't want to know about it. It's not necessary. I could know about it. I could be the one starting it. I'm actually the chief law enforcement officer.
For someone who claims to know nothing about it, he had sure a lot to say there. He said that the DOJ would be briefing him probably sometime today, but I tell them not to. And then, there's all this stuff of where the smoke and mirrors for people who are watching to say, no, I could be involved, but I'm not. But we all are watching and talking to sources that are within this DOJ and folks like you who have been a part of the law enforcement apparatus of this country for a very long time. That's not the case. He is very involved. And even if he's not giving direct, telling folks exactly what to do, the wink and nods are there. He's made very clear what he wants.
Yes, and for somebody who's interviewed and interrogated countless people over the years, that's not screaming of an honest answer to me. Right. So just throw that out.
Yeah.
If the FBI was arresting somebody in Queens, New York, on a document fraud case, the president probably wouldn't know about it. If they're arresting his former national security advisor, I guarantee you he knows about it and had a hand in it, especially if the information seems to be coming from the CIA director. And everybody throughout DOJ and obviously this administration are political appointees and fierce loyalists to the president. He is in the know, likely, on most of this stuff. So that's problematic. Back to what you were, the tweets. Kash Patel LARPing yesterday, which is what he's been doing since the beginning, patently unqualified for the job, likens himself to a wizard protecting the president, the king. I mean, that's exactly what we saw play out yesterday. Now, is Ambassador Bolton, does he have information or documents? Well, that remains to be seen. But the political influence on all of this is what should be concerning, because the FBI has incredible capabilities and power that should not be turned against political enemies.
Susan, the FBI Director Kash Patel was on Fox Business yesterday, and just listen, on Wednesday, listen to what he had to say about the FBI's search of Mar-a-Lago in August of 2022, 3 years ago.
The answer has been definitive. There was no crime. There was no predicate to go and invade Donald Trump's home. We have answered that definitively. And so when they do raids like Mar-a-Lago, now the American public knows it was made up, it was completely false, it was completely unconstitutional pursuant to our judicial courts.
And so, Susan, he says there was no predicate to go and he says, invade Donald Trump's home. In the 7 o'clock hour, we put up a calendar. There it is. It started in May of 2021 with the archives asking Trump to return the missing presidential records. And you can see 6 more events of them trying to get the documents back. And then in August of 2022, 3 years ago this month, the FBI got a warrant to search Mar-a-Lago. So what's Kash Patel doing here by saying there's no predicate to go and search Donald Trump's home when there it is right there in black and white, but also we watched it in real time?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's another shocking breach. You want to talk about norms and protocols, but this is the director of the FBI selling out his own agency. Remember also that he is calling into question the actions, the lawful actions of many, many hundreds of people who work for him now as the director of the ostensibly but no longer nonpartisan FBI. So, I think it's important to note that he's telling the FBI workforce, I will choose the lie over the truth when it comes to Donald Trump and also when it comes to your own actions. The fact that it was set up right before this raid makes it all the more resonant a comment, because let's remember they found actual classified documents, large numbers of them, in Donald Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago. And so, again, it's the inversion of truth. It's the opposite of truth that you're hearing from the director of the FBI. And it's that undermining of the credibility of the entire agency that works for him that really strikes me there. And then just one other point, which is John Bolton We don't know yet if there is any basis for this case or not. We do know that in Trump's first term, his Justice Department sought unsuccessfully to question the publication of Bolton's memoir in the room where it happened on the basis of saying that he was improperly disclosing information. They did not succeed in stopping the publication of that book. There was an investigation that was launched by Trump's Justice Department in the first term. That investigation was ended after Trump was defeated and left office and during the Biden administration. So are they resurrecting an investigation that was already disbanded? Is it a new investigation? We don't know that. We also don't know why they couldn't have handled this the way that they normally handle things, which is to negotiate with Bolton and his lawyer rather than staging what appeared to be a very public show just a few days after Donald Trump tweeted in outrage because John Bolton was publicly commenting and pointing out that his efforts to mediate the Russian war in Ukraine were so far coming up empty and were failing. And, you know, remember, this is the same week. It's only been 1 week in which Donald Trump have made a great deal and to have brokered a meeting between Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky, which hasn't happened. And that's what John Bolton has been on television talking about all week long, is the fact that Donald Trump is once again lying to people, puffing up and misrepresenting his efforts on the world stage, which look quite embarrassing to the United States.
Just a week. That's crazy. Christopher O'Leary, Michael Feinberg, and Susan Glasser, thank you.